From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. Folks, there are a ton of things happening in the news and around the world today. We are recording on Wednesday, June 18th. This Strange News program will publish on June 23rd, and it's going to be diplomatically put, it's going to be interesting to see what Monday looks like. And I'm trying to be positive when we say that.
Yeah.
Not looking good.
Maybe everything will work out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like to try to live by those words, but it doesn't always work out.
Mm-hmm. One thing I think we all kind of predicted but found confirmed by recent research is that if you're learning about news outside of this show, then statistically in the United States, you're learning about it through social media. So shout out to the recent article by Ian Youngs over at the BBC. Please check it out for a read. And guys, I think we all just kind of assumed that social media was a bigger and bigger source of quote unquote news for most of the US, right?
Yeah, but usually I'm seeing news from news sites on social media.
Same.
Are we talking about Instagram users who are just saying things?
Well, also, I mean, let's just be real here. The president himself is quite an active social media user and is very want to make news directly. He, I think, prefers it that way. And so that is certainly, and also a lot of members of his party and other politicians, you know, with Twitter and now, of course, Truth and Blue Sky and whatever. There is a direct way for folks to, you know, make news if they wish. So I'm with you, Ben.
Bite-sized, digestible. What we used to call them nuggets, knowledge
indigestible
nuggets.
at times.
Right. Full of factoids. In fact, we are using that phrase correctly. Studies show more than half of people in this country get news from networks like Facebook, X, YouTube, the things we were naming, about 54% of the country. And to your point, Matt, a lot of that is going to be repurposed clips from other news organizations, right? Things that go viral. And as Mark Twain said, you know, a lie can circle the world twice while the truth is putting on its shoes. That's the situation we're in now. So we want to keep that in mind, right? Keep in mind the idea of misinformation and disinformation as it proliferates. We're going to explore the world in tonight's Strange News. And we were talking off air briefly about this. The first thing we need to talk about is Iran, Israel, and pizza.
Yep. The pizza index, right? Like much like the Waffle House index predicts bad weather that you should really take note of. This pizza index, which was news to me, Ben, I think is a way of predicting military action or at least mega scuttlebutt going on in Washington, right?
Yeah. And then from there, we're going to encounter some shipwrecks, maybe some hidden history, some legislative corruption, and an unethical, but apparently quite successful aviation hack. All this and more after the break. And we have returned. If you happen to engage with Twitter, or X as Elon Musk prefers to call it, then we have a follow for you. It's at Pen Pizza Report. The Pentagon Pizza Report is an open source tracking of pizza order activity around the Pentagon and other related nearby places. This has become an unofficial metric similar to that of the Waffle House Index, which we've discussed in the past. A lot of people will tell you with some validity that you can make a loose prediction on upcoming U.S. military action based on an increase in pizza orders to these military installations. First off, Noel, you said this was kind of new to you. Matt, did this ring a bell for you?
Yeah, I've heard you guys mention, or Ben, at least you mentioned this pizza index multiple times, but I love the concept. I think it's pretty brilliant. Somebody, I don't know whose idea it was. Do we know? Because it's a smart move.
Yeah, you can always count on someone with a crazy love of a specific thing to end up, loopholing our usual channels of public communication. It reminds me of the guy who got in trouble for mapping all of Musk's flights on his private plane.
Yeah, which is, of course, private plane, public record.
Yes.
And Musk had a real problem with that. It also reminds me of the way you can get a lot of accuracy in predicting news events by checking out the online betting markets.
Yes. Yeah. Because people in Vegas and online will bet on darn near anything. Mm-hmm. They'll bet on whether or not you think they're going to bet on something.
and they
know what I mean? They'll take those odds.
But guys, just help me really clarify this for me.
Sure.
In my mind, this is stating that someone somewhere in or near the Pentagon or the White House is ordering a bunch of pizza because everybody's got to stick around and have a late meeting of some sort.
That's the idea. Yeah, kind of situation room stuff. It's a Cold War era theory, and it's been around for a while. It has very recently resurfaced. This is getting us into the story we wanted to talk about, the scary one. So we started with the fun part first. Since the Cold War, there's been this theory that waxes and wanes in popularity and says you can get a rough spidey sense of what the U.S. is going to do in global crisis situations or predict U.S. action abroad by correlating pizza orders near the Pentagon. And this worked for a while back, especially before the age of ubiquitous information. People were able to, by hook or by crook, get the information from pizza shop operators, literally, in the DC area and surrounding the DoD. So recently, there's been renewed interest in this Pentagon Pizza Index. If you follow the theory, then you'll see a lot of proponents arguing it has accurately predicted 21 global crises since the Cold War, and people are worried it may be predicting something like World War III right now.
Wow.
Oh, geez. Don't say that. My initial question was, where are they getting this data? And I get it completely now. You could look at Google business results and see high traffic times or real-time reports of people checking in, et cetera, which makes a lot of sense why this would be easier to track. And I gotta wonder how they did it in the Cold War days. Were they just like hanging out at pizza places and like monitoring visually?
With sunglasses, trench coat, and newspaper?
I don't quite get it. It may well have been more of a boots on the ground situation.
Very much so. The pizza operators were probably the primary source for that. But I have another twist to this I wanted to ask you guys about. All right. If this works, if we know it works, if the public knows it works, right, and anybody can follow anyone on Twitter or accounts like this, then is it possible that the boffins at the Pentagon are aware of this and maybe manipulating things a little bit?
Oh, dear.
Yeah. You
DoorDash.
You DoorDash from random places, and you've got to set up some kind of randomization algorithm of where you get food from.
Also, I guess pizza is kind of the ultimate community takeout food or order delivery food, because you can get like cheese and then like, a little bit for everybody. But then, let's not forget, there's also like Chinese, there's tacos, there's lots of other options.
There's a lot of, they're like handheld things, Subway sandwiches. There used to be a Subway in the Pentagon. I'm sure they got busy at different times. But the reason people are focusing on this now is due to the ongoing escalation of the conflict between Israel and Iran, with some incredibly strange and unorthodox signals coming from the leadership of the United States. The world has been following this. You can easily see timelines of the escalation, but it's important to remember this is a new chapter in something that dates back decades and decades and decades. We are well aware that this can be an incredibly sensitive subject for a lot of people, so we want to just give you the facts. I think, like a lot of us who are not following the Pizza Index, we got the news when Israel bombed Iran, right? That's when the news hit for the West.
Yeah, it was when Netanyahu made a public statement about what was happening, and at least that's when I heard about it.
Yeah, Noel, same for you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I honestly, we had a production call yesterday, and I had really only heard rumblings, and then you kind of filled me in on some of the details. I think one thing that we all thought was a little unusual, back to the whole social media thing, is some tea kind of being spilled out of school in a couple of fronts. Trump himself, but I also wanted to mention to you guys or ask if you saw this interview that Tucker Carlson did with Ted Cruz, where Tucker Carlson goes to town on that man and like takes him to task about like knowing the population of Iran and the cultural makeup of Iran. And then Cruz basically believes that the leader of Iran is trying to have Trump killed, and he supports that by saying, well, we are doing something about it. We are launching a strike with with Israel. They're doing it. We're helping. It was some real accidental speaking out of school stuff. And then Trump did the whole thing about, we're not going to kill the leader, but we could. Right. But maybe real weird.
Weaponized ambiguity also going on social media and telling the innocents, the civilians of Tehran, to evacuate immediately. This latest iteration of this long-running, deeply seated conflict began on June 13th, 2025. So just a few days ago, the IDF struck Iran in an operation codenamed Rising Lion. The Israeli government says this series of strikes was a response to Iran's continuing enrichment of uranium.
Because there were talks, right? They were in specific nuclear deal talks, which broke down, and it was literally within a day or two of those talks breaking down that the strikes occurred.
Yes, yeah. And Iran and Israel were relatively friendly until 1979 and have been geopolitical rivals and avowed enemies ever since. So the big question, as any non-proliferation researcher will tell you, the big question is, how close can this country get to acquiring nuclear weapons? The government of Israel is saying that Rising Lion was necessary because if they did not strike, when those talks broke down, then the country would have inevitably and quickly made enough uranium, weapon grade, enough for 15 nuclear weapons.
And this is about targeting these enrichment facilities, right?
Yes, enrichment facilities, also specific individuals with expertise, and then also political officials. The chief of staff died in one of these targeted attacks over the space of conflict that's about 6 days in as we record, got replaced by another chief of staff, and then that guy got killed as well. Jeez. That's a very quick turnover.
A little bit of an update. I just saw a Time article. Iran's supreme leader calls out Trump and threatens irreparable damage if U.S. joins Israeli conflict. And according to Ted Cruz, that's exactly what's happening. So that's not good.
Well, but again, it's so tough to know if any of the signals coming from the White House are real or if they're diversionary tactics or some kind of play, as we've stated many a time on this show. Specifically, Ben, I remember you talking to us about that. Is it a tactic of a deal, right, that's attempting to be made by putting out false information? Or is it something that we can trust? Because I remember seeing something specifically, I think it was all caps, unconditional surrender or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then, but we're also in talks. Oh, but they've really got to, they got to stop now. And then as we logged in to record, there's another headline that was another, I believe, social media message that stated, oh, the leader of Iran has reached out and wants to talk.
Yeah.
And just really quickly, part of this statement that the leader of Iran, Khomeini, made, he says directly to Trump, the U.S. president threatens us with his absurd rhetoric. He demands that the Iranian people surrender to him. They should make threats against those who are afraid of being threatened. The Iranian nation isn't frightened by such threats.
Yeah. And part of a statement he also made today as we record was that Israel has committed a grave mistake and will face the repercussions. Iran will not tolerate any breach of its airspace. We've mentioned before how sometimes quite often public statements don't match the private conversations that world leaders and their staff and their diplomats will have behind closed doors. So the whispers were in the wind over the past few days that Iran was saying one thing publicly, and then, as you said, Matt, was reaching out through back channels and saying, hey, let's figure out how to de-escalate this. A lot of people who have studied the military and governmental makeup of the current Iranian government, they'll tell you there are some systemic flaws in the system. One of those flaws, arguably, would be that it is a theocracy. So a lot of people who are in decision-making or war-fighting positions of leadership, they don't have military qualifications. They have theocratic qualifications, right? So they may request things that, your ordinary military guy would consider non-starters, would consider infeasible for any number of logistical issues, or, they'd be aware of knock-on consequences. But while all this is occurring, there are, again, innocent people throughout the region who are in just a terrible situation. Some of these folks have nowhere to go. Right? They have to sit there and hope that the bombs don't hit them.
Well, and this notion of evacuating, it's a lot more difficult than just that. I've seen videos of obviously just absolute bumper to bumper traffic on the way out of the cities. So it's just, it's not, it's, I get the purpose of saying something like that, though Trump has never really fancied himself to be like the bearer of empathy. But it does seem to be directed in that way, kind of, right? To act as though he's thinking about the Iranian people.
Yeah, and the thing that is, I think, another evolution here in the way this administration communicates is that it didn't come out as, an official statement from the DOD or the White House official press release. First, it came out as the literal president of the United States on social media, like you were saying, Noel. So it's a very stark change from public communication of the past. This happens as the USS Nimitz strike group is moving toward the Middle East, and right as we were going in to record today, the government of Iran just announced a soft blockade of Hormuz, which we discussed in our episode on most recently on lost civilization in the Persian Gulf.
Important shipping route.
Yes, vital.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Jinx. Sorry.
Keep it. Let's keep it. It's the best word for it.
Yeah, and I think you even mentioned something about that when we last recorded, Ben. You're like, well, let's see if they take the Strait of Hormuz. And then you mentioned that would be one of the things that the U.S. would try to prevent or break if that were to happen. That makes sense to me.
Well, the issue, I agree with you. It could be a massive escalation. What we mean by a soft blockade is the idea that not that they're stopping everything, but that only Iranian approved vessels can traverse that space. So from their statement, theoretically, you could say, hey, I know we're not getting along right now, but can I have some gas? Just time out real quick for the gas. Yeah. Okay, time in. Thank you guys. Back at it.
But that's also one of the necessary resources to stage an attack, right? So it's why would you do that? I don't know.
Yeah. Now we're messing with the money, which goes beyond the ideology, right? The money is something that everybody can get behind, right? Or use as a rationale. And again, we're just giving you the facts. And the issue right now is that for consumers of news in the West and abroad, you're going to have to be very careful to sort of triangulate the truth, because there are a lot of angles to some of this reporting. It's no secret, by the way, that the U.S. often has a hard anti-Iran slant when they're reporting the news, right? Like we talked about it before. One of the old red flags that you could always use to tip your spidey sense was seeing a U.S. journalist describe something as a government or as a regime. If it's a government, then the U.S. kind of approves. If it's a regime, they're on a list. A short and dangerous list. It's like 30% of the world's fossil fuels or liquid natural gas, a huge amount goes through the strait. And China and Japan in particular are reliant on those exports to keep that spice flowing. So obviously the question in the room before we move on, I know we've got a lot of stuff to get to, is going to be this for a lot of people. How soon and to what degree will this affect gas prices? That's honestly what a lot of people are thinking or wondering, you know?
And is this the kind of thing too that moves the market? Like, I mean, I guess there's futures bets and things like that being made on, commodities like gas, but you do tend to see market movement whenever there's, scuttlebutt of this magnitude as well.
Mm-hmm. Good time to own a pizza shop in DC.
I guess so.
Trying to find something positive there, and that is the best we can do.
What's the scary pizza shop in DC?
Oh, the Pizzagate pizza shop?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
What is it?
Comet?
Cosmos? Yeah, Comet. That's it.
Yeah. So right now, this is a situation that the world has its eyes on. Please let us know your takes. If you are listening in Israel, if you're listening in Iran, if you're listening and you happen to be serving in the armed forces or in some group that may be involved with this conflict, please be safe. I hate that we keep having to say, that old quotation or proverb about elephants and grass. It's just so true. I think those are our thoughts for now. We've got scads of energy analyst predictions for price jumps, and we'll see how that works out at the time. I don't know, man. It's strange news and it's frightening.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what the bulletin of the atomic scientists is going to say.
Check on the clock.
Oh, the clock.
And Dylan, before we get to the break, let's get some breaking news. Quick update, folks. On June 22nd, 2025, the United States of America hit 3 facilities in the nation of Iran. This is including the Fordow uranium enrichment plant, the Natanz nuclear facility, the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center. These were hit with what you would call bunker busters. The attack, retaining the earlier name Operation Midnight Hammer, is now the largest B-2 operational strike in history. As we alluded to in our earlier original recording, this does trigger action from Iran, and the world waits to see what will happen in retaliation and, of course, with the Strait of Hormuz. Be safe out there.
And we have returned. Fellas, are you familiar with an organization called the Ghana Drunkards Association, also known as Beverage Consumers and Bar Owners Association of Ghana?
You know, I only recently learned of this, Noel, because I saw the headline and I had to check and make sure it wasn't from The Onion.
Yeah, for sure. Headline being Ghana Drunkards Association goes viral after pressuring government to lower alcohol prices. This comes on the heels of the local Ghanaian currency surging against the dollar, which that's a good thing, right? If a surge is good. So that means the value is up. It's spiked to some degree. This has caused some price adjustments, adjustments to various pricing structures, is how it is put in the London Economic Report by Tom. On the topic. I don't know, it's Tom. And I found this in multiple places. I think a lot of this is reprinted from
it's
elsewhere.
Tom's at Bain, right?
Yeah, it's just, it just says Tom. But this is very much real. And the organization has put out a call to the newly elected president of Ghana in a very colorfully signed, we'll get to that in a minute, memo directly to the president of Ghana. And it reads as follows. We, the members of the above stated group, letterhead is exactly as I said, the Beverage Consumers and Bar Owners Association of Ghana, in parentheses, Ghana Drunkards Association, wish to extend our congratulatory message. Let's flatter.
Here we go to President John Mahama.
That's right. H.E. John Dramani Mahama and the entire National Democratic Congress fraternity for the landslide victory in the just ended 2024 general election. The group is further wishing the transitional team from both the political divide, which is the NDC and the NPP, smooth transition in good faith and transparency. Here we go. Let's get to the meat of it. With the above notwithstanding, Mr. President, bear in mind that the landslide victory you chalked is unprecedented in the Fourth Republic of the country and a clear manifestation of the desire of the masses calling for change in political administration of the country due to several factors that negatively affected their socioeconomic lifestyle in the outgoing administration. Mr. President, as you take office by 7th January 2025, bear in mind that the populace would hold you and your administration accountable on all promises you had in your social contract, party manifesto with us, and anything aside that shall not be accepted. Now we're getting real casual. Mr. Prez, we are aware of the daunting task ahead of you and your team, and we assure you of our prayers and anticipation that our plight shall be ameliorated in the coming days as a reduction in taxes on alcoholic beverage company producers, likely to also positively affect our pockets. We hope this, our message, finds you well, sir. Our commander-in-chief, yours faithfully, Moses Onoya, Drybone. And he signs it with a little stick figure holding like a martini glass and some little squiggle. Looks like he's got like, I don't know what this squiggle is attached to, a circle. I don't know what that's supposed to be. But it's I gotta give them props for how erudite and politically minded this statement is. It's easy to want to dunk on, the idea of a drunkards association, but it takes them a minute to get to their actual demands, I have to say. Yeah.
I noticed that they state this association is 16 plus million members.
It's crazy,
strong.
Dude. It's crazy that they say that, because apparently I was reading on a Reddit thread that y'all may have seen as well. I think I linked to in the doc. Some eagle-eyed Redditors looked for social media presence in this organization and could only find a Facebook page with like 700 followers.
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah. So somebody points out, the way they put it is really funny. Someone does, by the way, mention this is an objectively funny and very oniony headline. They essentially say that they think the organization is, let's just politely or diplomatically say, inflating their numbers.
Sure.
And they point out that, so 16.65 million members. The total population of Ghana is around 33.7 million.
Yes.
The working age population, aged 15 to 65, was 18,619,021 in 2021. This means something like 89% of the adult population in Ghana is in the Drunkards Association.
Here's how you do it. Here's how you goose that one. They may be counting everybody who has ever walked into a bar
ever
in the history of Ghana. Like, welcome, you're a member. Here's a PBR. Not complimentary, though. You're going to have to pass.
A lovely Reddit name, by the way. Salacious Verbacious. That's great. Props to that. Had this to say, maybe they're doing a membership counting strategy like the Catholic Church, where anyone who is baptized automatically becomes a member for life. Definitely some creative math. These comments are gold, by the way. Well, they're passionate and using their platform for the greater good, I suppose. Ghana sounds like a fun place to visit. Let's see, one more that was fun. But thinking about it further, it's quite interesting as well how it reflects a view of collective bargaining and group identification beyond the usual sociopolitical groupings we are used to seeing. And that is a really good point. Last one. That's just a good point.
Yeah, the possibility of protest or strikes, right?
That is what they're calling for. I buried the lead there. They are calling for action, which wasn't mentioned in the actual statement. But that is essentially the takeaway is that if they don't get what they want, they're gonna stage some sort of massive protest or
with
walkout.
A 3-week time window.
That's exactly right.
Like that. Yeah.
Last Reddit comment: give a man a fish and he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish, and he'll just sit on his boat drinking beers and complaining all day. Don't teach a man to fish. He's a grown man, and fishing's not that hard. That's all I got, y'all.
I guess it does get more difficult the more alcohol you consume.
That is true. Yeah.
Or I don't know. It depends on the kind of fishing. Deep sea fishing, probably more difficult. But if you're sitting in a lake,
it's not that it's difficult. It requires patience, though. And it does make me think of the expression "shooting fish in a barrel," which also doesn't necessarily seem like it would be as easy as people point out. It depends on the size of the fish and the size of the barrel.
And it just never made sense that if you already have the fish in the barrel, why would you shoot them?
Yeah, that just seems like adding insult to injury, doesn't it?
Welcome to overthinking.
For sure. That's kind of what we do here on stuff they don't want you to know. They're threatening this demonstration, a 3-week deadline in order to have their demands met. Local media reports that the association will mobilize millions. Again, I don't know if they've got the manpower, but we'll see, to stage a mass demonstration. And that's about as far as they take it in terms of what they're describing.
Sounds like a party.
It does sound like a bit of a party.
Are we going? Are we good? Are we going to rage at the protest?
Let's book our trips to Ghana right away. Last thing, though their newfound viral fame has exposed them to a global audience, the Drunkards Association have their fans back home. Moses Onya raised a few eyebrows with his signature back in December, signing off on a communication with this exceptional signature. Sorry, that was the statement I read. That was a little ways back. So this is a new initiative, but it does seem that it's very much tied to this statement that I read. So that is where the funny little squiggly signature comes from. I don't really have much else on that one. And I did just want to point out a couple of quick things. There have been some fascinating archaeological discoveries. In Syria, a contractor stumbled upon a complex of Byzantine tombs under a residential area. This is from Marat al-Numan in Syria from the AP. A contractor digging into the earth where the rubble of a destroyed house had been cleared away in northern Syria stumbled across a surprise, the remains of an underground Byzantine tomb complex believed to be more than 1,500 years old. The discovery emerged last month in the town of Marat al-Numan in Idlib province, which is strategically located on the route between the cities of Aleppo and Damascus. The community became a touchpoint in the early 14-year Syrian civil war that ended with the fall of former President Bashar Assad in a lightning rebel offensive in December. We're talking about like engraved stones, all kinds of archaeological goodies to be had. Assad seized this area from the opposition to his regime in 2020, and the houses there that had been built were looted and destroyed, which is what has led to the sifting through the rubble and the discovery of this tomb.
Which may well have remained undiscovered for, another several centuries, maybe another 1,000 years, were it not for this horrific conflict.
100%. Yeah. No. And an interesting knock-on effect of these type of conflicts that I think is interesting in and of itself. The unearthing of these types of artifacts, I think, is fascinating to all of us. And we do have one more quick history mystery solved. In a recent article from Archaeology News, new evidence points to world's richest shipwreck. In 1708, a Spanish galleon called the San Jose left Portobello, Panama, bound for Cartagena Cartagena, Colombia, with 200 tons of gold, silver, and priceless artifacts and gems on board. And it was the flagship of the Spanish Tierra Firma fleet, and it was intercepted by British vessels and sunk off the coast of Cartagena. Colombian authorities about 10 years ago believed they had discovered this wreck, the world's largest shipwreck. But recent reports have shown that through analyzing these very specific types of coins that are littered across the seafloor, known as cobs, they've determined that they were in fact minted in Lima, Peru in 1707. And this is a statement from one of the investigators. The finding of cobs created in 1707 at the Lima Mint points to a vessel navigating the Tierra Firme route in the early 18th century. This is from Daniela Vargas Ariza, who's the lead researcher on the project. She goes on, the San Jose Galleon is the only ship that matches these characteristics. And so this is potentially $1 billion find. Once, and it did make me think too, is like, the idea of antiquities being priceless and how things are valued. And it all is kind of based on collector markets at the end of the day, right? So in terms of how much this would ultimately be valued at, not necessarily the product of the actual modern day value of the precious materials, but it, figures into this whole notion of like what the collector value is, or what the, value to museums and such might be.
I was just about to say, it belongs in a museum.
Agreed.
Shout out to Indiana.
No, 100%. But I just, it's all this stuff is fascinating. So I don't know. Then you had also mentioned there was another famous shipwreck that was recently discovered. We thought maybe there was some crossover, but I think Captain, what was it? Captain Kirk?
Captain Cook.
That's different. Captain Kirk is different.
That would be a cooler ship to find if the Enterprise was somehow
found on the seafloor.
Off the coast of Rhode Island.
That'd be great.
Captain Cook's ship, the HMS Endeavour, sank 250 years ago during the Revolutionary War, or the War for Independence, or as our British friends call it, the peasants stink.
I don't know that one. Did you make that up?
Yeah, probably.
Got it.
No, David Attenborough. Sure. We'll tag it on Dave. Sure. But that's just a fascinating piece of perhaps ridiculous history. And in both of these cases, what I think we all find amazing is it shows us just how much stuff is under the water still. Mm-hmm. Like there are still shipwrecks out there. I know not everybody is a fan of James Cameron, but he's onto something, right?
Yeah, he's definitely cornered the market on the deepest of sea exploration. For sure. Leave it at that, guys. Let's take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll come back with Matt Frederick's Pieces of Strange News.
Boom, we've returned. I'm that guy, I think, still.
Oh, we know.
Are you him?
I might be him. Let's talk about some stuff, guys. We've got a fellow here named Michael Madigan. The name sounds really familiar. I don't think he's as well known as perhaps the authors of this particular AP News piece believe he is, but his name might be familiar to you. He is one of the, if not the longest serving politicians, forever, maybe? The longest serving legislative leader in the United States. Around 50 years of service to the public, right? Mm-hmm. This is a man who served as a speaker, as in like a speaker of the House fellow. He got in trouble, guys. He got in some big trouble. $2.5 million fine and a 7.5-year prison sentence for a bunch of things. Specifically 10 counts of things. He was convicted in February on 10 counts of things like bribery, conspiracy, wire fraud, and a bunch of other charges that are associated with him basically getting favors and positions for his friends.
Cookie jar crimes, not violent crime.
Yes, right? There's all white collar stuff here, guys.
Yeah.
Dating back how far?
Dating back for, I think, 20 years?
Yeah.
If they got him
have
on
to be.
conspiracy, this was a long time in coming, right? Because there's a high bar to prove some of that. And Matt, how long did you say the prison sentence is?
7.5 years.
He's going to prison. They're putting him away.
Pretty tough. That's pretty tough for an 83-year-old man.
Wow, that's life.
Yeah.
That's a life.
It really is.
Not the best one. No, we talked about it's so weird that this came up. I want to say I may have seen part of this headline, though I don't know much about it. And like a lot of us, like you were saying, Matt, I'm not super familiar with Madigan nor his work, but something inspired me, probably this headline, to re-listen to our 2-part episode on lobbying. And it is scary how well it holds up.
Yes.
Like so Michael Joseph Madigan definitely was a dark money lobby, ALEC friendly dude. Would we say?
Yeah. Specifically, he's in Illinois, by the way. We've heard a lot of things over the years about Chicago specifically and about politics in Illinois. And it appears that Mr. Madigan was taking part in a lot of that stuff, the rumors, that go around. And then rare, I would say, individual who ends up getting a prison sentence or a slap on the wrist for the kind of corruption that we're talking about here.
Yeah, and he was and is of the Democratic Party, correct?
Yes. Oh, yes. He was chairperson of the Illinois Democratic Party, which, again, just a reminder that no matter who you believe in, what your political thing is, everybody that gets to a certain level is susceptible to this kind of thing.
I would just love to say once more, I don't like or trust either of them.
I like money, though.
Yeah.
Shout out to Idiocracy.
Boy, both sides of this coin are kind of weird.
Well, the best way for me to check on that for you is if you give me like 5 more coins.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Patronage, right? Nepotism, old school Chicago corruption, as deep as the pizza up there.
I mean, it's like, and the fact that we have this 2-party system is jacked up in and of itself. And I truly don't identify with either party. I just want to make that really clear. I think both are, I trust them about as far as I can throw them.
I'm super into that practice. We received some correspondence about that practice of local municipalities electing non-human animals to positions of leadership, like this, Buster has been a great mayor of this town.
And a good boy.
Good boy.
But, So I've loved that line, Ben, about as deep as the pizza. I don't want that to go by. I really, really like that.
Man.
If deep dish is your thing.
we're getting toward lunch.
Seriously, I'm hungry too. So just let's think about this. Imagine this in your mind. This man was in the legislature there in Illinois through the reigns of 7 different governors.
Yeah.
7 different leaders in the executive side of Illinois were there while he was standing watch, right? So you can just imagine the number of hands that he has shaked, and the number of deals.
Yeah.
Well, the number of deals he's negotiated, the number of things like, you stack, if you could visualize and stack up all of those negotiations and talks and all that stuff, and then only imagine that there is a teeny tiny layer on top of that is the corrupt stuff that he's being charged for.
Sure.
It's probably way not as bad as a lot of the stuff that's occurred, at least when I'm looking through the writing on this from AP. It's just, it does stink that once you have that power to go through those negotiations, to make those deals, make those, decisions, you are going to get pressured in so many ways, and you're going to make decisions that not everybody's going to like, but are going to benefit a few people, right?
Yeah. And you get that reputation that is honestly past a certain threshold. It's apolitical. You get regarded as the guy who, for better or worse, can get things done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, red tape, that's for the other dudes. You and me, we can,
we have a special.
We could drop by Gino's, get some fettuccine, and talk this through.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but at some point, doesn't it feel to you guys like this is just how it gets done?
100%.
Oh, no question.
Unless the mayor is a dog or maybe a cat. I don't know. I wouldn't trust a cat in politics.
Are you joking? They'd be diabolical. You wouldn't stand a chance.
We're just saying the humans have some structural flaws, and more, it's fascinating to look at this gentleman's career, starting your political sort of ascension when you're just 27 is massively impressive. And it sounds like he was already involved in campaigns well before then. So he's definitely a career man. Has he made a statement, or his lawyers?
I'm sure they've made many statements. During the trial, it was, at least the defense was, this man needs to go home. He needs to be at home so he can take care of his spouse. There was a video from her that was played during the trial, like pleading, hey, please, I need my husband.
Like what? Like maybe asking for house arrest or something a little more lenient?
They're looking for like some kind of commuted sentence and a fine and like make that stuff happen. But that's not what the judge decided there.
Do you think they made an example of him? We see so much of this, and the people's getting away with it day in and day out. Very interesting. They would target this old fella. I don't know.
The cynical side of us would argue, or would ask with validity, did he cross somebody?
There you go.
Because he's been very good at playing this game for quite some time. And I love the point you're making there, Noel, about what could be seen as some hypocrisy on the side of the justice system. We know that the courts have been struggling lately with a lot of controversial rulings, and with, let's say it, they're beefed up with the executive branch. There's no two ways around it.
Big time.
But it does sound like he did it. And I think, Matt, the bigger question you raised is this just the way everything gets done?
Well, it kind of is, but guys, there's another article from early this year when Michael Madigan was going through another trial involved, like a whole separate trial, involved with, again, allegations of conspiracy, that he was using this thing called ComEd.
Yeah, the New York Times article, right?
There's one of those. Yeah. I'm looking at one specifically from PBS that was written January 22nd.
Okay.
And it's just about that trial and the end of that trial, and how this utility company was allegedly paying individuals like that they shouldn't have been paying a lot of money.
Okay, so the cookie didn't crumble overnight. It started disintegrating over time.
To me, it sounds like a bunch of things that got put in place because as speaker, that position allows you to kind of give the final word on which bills end up coming through, right? Which bills do we even get to vote on? Right, as a legislative body, which, good God, that's power.
Oh boy, is it ever!
Yeah, and it just seems like he used a lot of that for his own gain.
The cynicism. It makes me think back to the whole simple sabotage episode we did, and how that type of, I don't know, you could call it rhetorical sabotage, I suppose, is such part and parcel of the way parliamentary procedure works. It's built to fail. It's designed to be manipulated, and it's not inherently designed with the best interest of citizens at heart. It just isn't. Yeah, maybe it's designed with their best interest, but the way it's manipulated and traversed is certainly not. And that is a political thing, right? Yes.
It's because some of the necessary evils or some of the procedures that are common and are meant to provide some kind of inarguable benefit, those same procedures and tactics and rules and bylaws can all be weaponized, right, to have a negative effect. And especially, in a two-party system, that is a tremendous opportunity for both sides. It kind of reminds me of how, like, the issue we talked about with gas stations recently, all of the same factors that make gas stations incredibly popular and successful also make them incredibly prone to conspiracy, and crime.
Yep. Guys, we could talk about this a lot, but let's jump to another quick story before we get out of here. Do you guys remember somebody named Ann Wojcicki?
Yes.
I don't remember Ann Wojcicki. No, clue me in.
She was the co-founder, and she was the CEO of a little thing called 23andMe.
Ah, yes.
And then we just talked about how 23andMe filed Chapter 11, and then there was a bid from Regeneron Pharmaceuticals that one of you guys brought up in Strange News pretty recently for, gosh, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
200 something million dollars, that $256 million that they were going to purchase via auction 23andMe and all of its stuff. Well, Ann Wojcicki came through and said, hey, I know we did this auction thing. I know it's already complete. Regeneron's got the stuff, but I'd actually like to do the auction again.
Yeah.
Because I have this new thing called TTAM Research Institute, and we'd like to make a different bid, this time a bid for $305 million. And the folks in charge of the auctioning said, you know what? That sounds better than the other one. Almost $50 million better. Sure. So why don't we reopen it? And now Ann Wojcicki and her TTAM Research Institute are now the proud re-owners of 23andMe. Of
your gently used genetic data. Also, Matt, sorry I have that Cheshire grin on while you're saying this. I'm just... I get a weird energy. I just keep thinking of dirty acronyms for TTAM. Do we have any idea what it actually stands for?
Yeah, it's the words written out. 23 and me.
Oh, clever. That's some real like Dr. Alucard energy. They'll never figure out.
Dr. Acula.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's just a weird situation because, in our previous discussions, it was all about, well, who now owns all of this, genetic data and what are they going to do with it and why, how, what's happening? And now it's just the same folks who were doing it in the first place that are taking control again, or at least some of the same folks.
Yeah. We also talked about the process to remove your data from 23andMe. So if you have concerns about that, folks, please check out our previous Strange News when we talk about the original Regeneron bankruptcy move or their attempted acquisition. We also include the instructions for removing your data if you feel uncomfortable.
You should. Guys, have you ever been uncomfortable around a flight attendant? No, I'm sorry. There's no way for me to transition.
No, let's keep it. Yes. If anything, I'm a little too comfortable because you guys have seen it, like not in a sleazy way. I love sitting in the window seat, exit row, and I admit I am often a bit too enthusiastic when asked to give a verbal yes.
You are also really good at chatting up a flight attendant, Ben. And I don't mean that in a creepy way either. You just ask good questions, especially if we're going somewhere abroad, and you always get some good recommendations. So my hat's off to you, sir.
Oh, shucks, man. That's flight attendants have a very demanding job, as we can all agree, right? You'd be surprised how much stuff they have to put up with and how much they do or don't get paid. But you do get to travel the world. There's that.
Hey, that's great. That's what we're talking about here. Last story. We're not even going to go through the whole thing. You should look this up. Don't try it at home, though.
Yeah, try it on a plane.
Well, also don't do that, especially at an international airport. Yeah. You could look this up. I found it on NBC News, but I think it's on a bunch of other places too. Look for man convicted of posing as flight attendant to score over 120 free flights.
You brilliant bastard.
Well, here's the thing.
What a move.
I don't want to spoil it too much because it is a pretty interesting story, how this person, Alexander, made his way onto 120 different flights through 3 or more different companies where there's this special thing, y'all, that I didn't know. If you are a flight attendant, you can get specific seats. Sometimes they're jump seats. Sometimes they're, unsold seats on planes where you can use your badge ID number, your date of hire, and who you work for, and you can get on that flight. And it's not a problem. Nobody cares. You're a part of the team in some way, the general team, and you're good. Well, this person did work for an airline. They just were not a flight attendant or a pilot, which are generally the 2 classes of people who can make use of the free flight program. He used other people's data, like other people's badge numbers and dates of hire, to sneak on to these flights. Naughty boy.
Yeah. And I love that we're talking a little bit about this semi-secret culture in the world of aviation. Deadhead flights, that's where a pilot or a flight attendant or another professional will hop a plane just to get to their next port of call or their next assignment.
Jam band related. I get it now. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see what Dylan says. He says, at that point, just apply for the flight attendant position. That's a good point, man.
Also true.
How do you get away with this? I know we don't have too much time, but how do you?
Wire fraud is how you get away with it.
Okay. So that would be the technical violation.
Well, yeah, he's using other people's information to get on these flights.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? Because, we know how hard it is to get onto the flights, and flight attendants are still subject to verification and the manifest and all that. You ever been on a flight that was delayed because one crew member didn't show up and they have to redo all the paperwork and everything? There's serious business. So this person definitely, why didn't they just get the job? Maybe they didn't qualify. How did they do it?
It was 30 different IDs, like badge numbers, from seven different airlines. And this person claimed he went through TSA security like everybody else does. He made it onto the plane 120 times under false pretenses, Christ. Which is crazy.
And he had to be, I imagine, specifically trying to find identities that were not too far off from him. Like, does he rock up to the counter and they say, "Oh, hello, Samantha Aberdeen, 19 years old." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how it works. They don't go into the details here of like how he actually pulled it off. But he is facing a maximum of 3 years of supervised release and a $250,000 fine. There we go. That's all I got, guys.
And we can't wait to hear what you have, folks. Listen, we know we're covering some amusing stories. We're covering some very dangerous, disturbing things, and that's what Strange News is all about. Thank you for tuning in. This can't happen without you. We would love to hear from you. So join the party. Meet us over at the Ghanaian Drunkards Association protest, which is basically going to be Mardi Gras, if you're down for it. And then tell us your experience and your predictions with the pizza index, the looming wars on the horizon, and tell us the last time you hopped a plane. Find us online, send us an email, call us on the phone.
That's right. You can find us at the handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist on Facebook with our Facebook group. Here's where it gets crazy, on X, FKA, Twitter, and on YouTube, where we have video content galore for your perusing enjoyment. On Instagram and TikTok, we're Conspiracy Stuff Show.
We have a phone number. It is 1-833-STDWYTK. When you call in, you've got 3 minutes. Give yourself a cool nickname and let us know if we can use your name and message on the air. It's pretty simple. Just word to the wise. If any of you have noticed you haven't been getting a call back lately, it's because our internal system doesn't allow for calls anymore, so we are working through the bugs on that. But hopefully, the shadows will reach back out, again, sometime in the near future when we get our ducks in order there. If you want to write to us, we have an email. It is...
we're the entities who read every piece of correspondence we receive. Be well aware, yet not afraid. Sometimes the void writes back. So join us out here in the dark. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.